Greetings, all you Jackson Jennets, and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. The show's called Sports Talk, or actually it's called Steelers Talk, I guess. But this week it is Sports Talk, as we're purely talking about the Super Bowl. Although, Gingy, I know you want to talk about some Steeler things because you want to get a nice little debate going. I hear you. Laskers is also here. Say hello to the boys, everybody. Donk Nation, they're coming in.
Me and Gingy in the house. We talking football. It's Super Bowl week. Hello. Let's go. Who's ready?
I'm not sure I'm ready, but Lasters is in the house, and, it should be an interesting game, and hopefully it'll be a close one, and that's about all I got on that.
So we can start this week off with some Steelers talk. Gingy, I know there's something that's been you want to get into, I guess, is what we'll say.
Yeah, I'd like to address a rumor going around. There's been some talk that there was maybe a physical altercation at one point during the season at the halftime of the Jets game, I believe, between Deontay Johnson and Mitch Trubisky. Whenever Mitch Trubisky was benched, the understanding was that there might have been a punch right square in the kisser that led to sort of that type of thing happening. Deontay goes online, says that this is unequivocally not true. I don't know, Donkey. What do you think? You think Trubisky got one right in the kisser because he deserved it, or what?
I heard it was before the Jets game. Maybe I misread.
Before, yeah.
All I have to say is it was about 6 games too late if it meant benching Mitch Trubisky, because from day one we could see he wasn't the best quarterback for that team. And can't blame Deontay for not wanting Spazoid, who can't throw the ball in the middle of the field, to be his quarterback. I mean, say what you want. I know a lot of people are out here defending Mitch Trubisky. A lot of people are saying how great he'd be to keep here as the backup. Honestly, I didn't see it when he was in Chicago. I didn't see it when he was backing up at Buffalo. I didn't see it when he was here in Pittsburgh. I don't care if Deontay Johnson punched someone in the face. This is a physical sport. There are fights all the time. I don't know if you guys remember, but Cam Hayward's first 7-8 years in the league, he would get kicked out of at least one preseason practice every year because he started a fight. That's what I want. I want guys who are into it, guys who want to succeed, guys who have that want and that ambition to drive it. And Laskers, to me, if Deontay did punch him in the face and it was over being competitive, that's a great sign in my opinion.
It is a good sign, but also at the same time, you're supposed to be a team, and you got to just talk to your guy and be like, hey, man, we got to step it up, and you're the leader of the team. You're the captain. What's going on in your head?
Gingy, I don't know. I've been on plenty of sports teams, and I'll tell you right now, sometimes a fight is the best thing for the team because it actually can bring some unity.
Yeah, as long as no one's getting really injured over it, I'm not quite so sure about that. But those grown guys throwing haymakers at each other, I don't know if that's absolutely necessary. We don't know what's going on. We don't understand the context of the locker room. But what I did want to bring it up in terms of is really just, I think that Kenny Pickett brought some more cohesion to that unit that Mitchell wasn't bringing. And I think that, rumors like this and things like this coming up, whether they're exactly true or not, are evidence of that lack of cohesion with Mitchell at the helm.
Gingy, there was something I told you when we drafted Kenny Pickett. I don't know if you recall what it was, but let me rephrase it, I guess. I don't know the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, when you look at Kenny Pickett, he's not going to wow you. But the thing is, this dude wins football games, and people want to play for this guy. It seems like the second half of the year, that's what it more was, is the team was out there and they were fighting, they were being physical, and there's just that simple factor when that guy's willing to fight for that extra inch, it makes such a difference. And when you look back at Mitch Trubisky's career, anywhere he was all the way back to college in North Carolina, it just doesn't seem like Mitch had that ability to be a leader of men, for lack of better terminology here.
Yeah, leadership, those intangibles, just like you said. I think, rather than really get on Mitch about this or, speculate as to what's going on there, I really want to use it as a testament. You don't hear, for a rookie guy coming in, you didn't hear any of that type of talk when Kenny came in. anybody's discontent or anybody really complaining, talking about getting the ball or whatever. That kind of thing disappears with winning, though, I guess. And when you're closing out drives and winning football games, maybe those things turn out differently. Maybe it turns out differently if you get some dubs with Mitch. I don't know, but it's interesting to think about.
The locker room was a lot less fractured after Kenny Pickett's first 3 to 4 losses than it was under Mitch Trubisky's first 3 to 4 losses. I don't think there's any argument to be made there.
Quite possible.
I mean, he did start the thing off with like a 34-3 loss to Buffalo. Is that what the score was last year? You might be a little better at remembering that.
I'll look it up. Give me 1 second.
It was quite the whooping he took there, though. So Gingy, new Pro Bowl pattern was out there, and I didn't know it was possible to make the Pro Bowl more dumb than it's been in the past, but I think the NFL has successfully done that.
What Pro Bowl? What was going on?
Oh, okay. Fair point.
It was 38-3.
38-3. I underestimated. We lost.
Wait, they played a Pro Bowl game. I don't know what you're talking about,
you
man.
know, they did
something about flag football is what I heard.
Yeah. That's the way the NFL's going, Laskers. I don't know if you've watched much of the last couple seasons, but we're about there. So we're just practicing in the Pro Bowl before we take it into the real games. But let's get into the Super Bowl. Let's break it down. You got the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, on one side. You got the Philadelphia Eagles on the other side. You got a football game that's more of a spectacle than an actual show of the game, as these teams have prepped, played all season, have a certain amount of breaks in between. But now you get the super long halftime show, and I believe we get to be graced this year by Rihanna. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, let's go. I got a name right that time. So that could be very fun and entertaining. Don't mind her. Awkward things that go on. Two teams that have both had players, obviously, in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs were there 2 years ago. Philly won it a few years ago. New coach there. We could call it the Andy Reid Bowl if you really want to, as his legacy's on both of these franchises going into there. But let's talk offenses. Let's see. Laskers, do you like things that the Chiefs bring more? Or do you like things that the Eagles bring more on the offensive side of football?
I actually don't really have a preference. I think they both have their strengths, and it's going to be interesting to see how they portray them in the game.
That's fair. How about Gingy? You got one team that you're looking to a little bit more than the other when it comes to the offensive side of things.
When it comes to offense, I'm looking square at Patrick Mahomes. He's the tried and true guy. This is the hype, right? This is the next gen quarterback. Okay, I think he was my offensive MVP, I believe, last week. And when I'm looking at the offensive side of the ball, I'm looking to see, how is that passing game going to get into rhythm? How are they going to deal with Kelsey on the other end? What are they going to do? Are they going to close Kelsey off and make Mahomes go elsewhere? I'm just more intrigued by the Kansas City offense than I am the Philadelphia side.
I'm glad you say that, Gingy, because I'm going to disagree with you 100%. And my reason is, if he didn't get hurt this year, Jalen Hurts wins the MVP. I think it's that simple, and I don't think it's because of his throwing ability. But when you want to look at a team at all levels, the quarterback who's better at running the ball and is healthier is Jalen Hurts. The team that has the better running game is the Philadelphia Eagles. And in my opinion, the team with the best offensive weapon is the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, A.J. Brown, he has 2 weeks to get fully healthy. That dude's scary. And is it Devontae Smith? Is that the other one they got there? The absolute burner?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how you don't like this Philly offense as a unit. It's just, yes, Patrick Mahomes is probably the best single individual player playing on offense right now in this game. No doubt about that. But when you look at this unit, sure, Kansas City's had a good offensive line. Philly's is better. Kansas City has some decent weapons. I mean, Edwards-Helaire's coming back, but who knows how he's going to play. They have some decent running backs, but I think, again, Philly has the advantage there. And I tend to see this, and it's a thing that New England has done so successfully every year, even when Tom Brady was there. the team that runs the ball more successfully tends to have the more success in the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl, due to extra commercial breaks, due to extra breaks at halftime, is the least rhythm-formed game in the NFL season. To me, that's the huge thing, Gingy, is this game is always played out of rhythm because it's the Super Bowl. And Gingy, what's the NFL about? As I struggle with words there.
It's going to be about getting eyeballs on that game.
Making money, right? So it's not about keeping a good tempo. And I think the team that can be more successful at out-of-tempo plays is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, albeit I've seen Patrick Mahomes do some crazy things in the past, but when you're talking about it's Kelsey and then what, Juju Smith-Schuster as the best options to throw the football to, I guess maybe you could argue Valdez-Scantling if he can actually hold on to a football, which was his biggest problem in Green Bay. But I like totally the Eagles do, because I think outside of tight end and quarterback, you go position to position or position group to position group. The Eagles have the advantage. I mean, that's my take, Gingy. Is that a fair take, or am I missing something there? Because you said you do like this Chiefs thing. Is there a secret weapon in there in Kansas City that I'm missing out on?
Yeah, it's the superstar effect, man. I understand A.J. Brown does have that over on the Philly side, and Jalen Hurts could have that. You're right. He did have an MVP caliber season minus the injury. Right now, what we look at is the Mahomes to Kelsey connection. That can take over a game just as easily, I think, as Hurts and Brown can on the other side. So again, that's with Kansas City, not having as many options maybe on that side of the ball. I'm just really intrigued to see if they maybe even can keep up, right? When you're talking to me about which offense is more intriguing, it's not necessarily maybe which offense has the potential to drop more points. It's which offenses I think is going to matter more, right? I really think that Philly has sort of a consistent output that I expect from them. I think Kansas City's output is very variable. I could see them putting up a stinker, or you could see them going out and just running game for 4 quarters. It's less predictable for me, What do you think?
I'm gonna both coaches, offensive based coaches, both coaches get it done. I really do think the way Philly's done it this year is going to be surprising. And again, I've said it before, when important players in important positions have that hunger effect, it just makes things a little different. And with Philly, I think the hunger effect comes through the coaching staff. But we also have to look at defenses here, because let's be honest, that offense, they're not facing each other. They got to face the other team's defense. Laskers, who'd you give the advantage to on this side of the football?
I think I'm going to give it to the Eagles, and I don't really have a real good reason because I haven't watched either team that much, but just it seems like they play a little bit better defensive game. I mean, they shut down the 49ers.
They absolutely did. And I think what you just said about the 49ers to me is the bigger point of the Eagles offense. No one had really torched the 49ers defense, which everyone agreed was the best in football, until last week when Philly put up 31 points. I know some turnovers played in effect of that. The fact that San Francisco didn't have a quarterback that could throw the ball farther than I was a big part of that. But that is a pretty stout defense when you look at Philly.
I agree with that. That's where I think that I'm more interested in on the defensive side of the ball, and that comes down to Philly's pass rush and Philly's defensive line. Really the dominant part of that unit, in my opinion, coming up. And they could definitely take an impact over what I said. It's that Philly defense versus that Kansas City offense. That's the matchup for me. I know that the other units are going to be on the field, but that's what I'm going to be looking at in particular this week.
That's a fair one to look at. I mean, when you look, you're starting what? Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. You have Linville Joseph coming off the bench. Javon Hargrave, who's been a monster out there. You have Ryan Kerrigan, who's a top guy. You have Robert Quinn, who's been specialist here and there. I haven't even mentioned Josh Sweat, who's an absolute monster out there. Oh, and by the way, and Ndamukong Suh, also on that defensive line in Philly. I mean, it's just
crazy.
The hard part is you get this depth, this unpenetrable depth from this Philly defensive line. And I didn't even mention last year's Defensive Player of the Year. I believe he said was Hassan Reddick, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a
I
pass
can't
rusher
remember for
comes
sure.
from the linebacker edge out there. I mean, this is a team that's just deep, I guess is the best way to say it out there. And then they were able to go in the offseason. Darius Slay's a shutdown guy. They were able to add a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson in a trade that never should have happened from New Orleans. When you look at this game on paper, you're looking at a team that is just stacked, is deep, and shows you how to build a football team when you have a rookie quarterback. That contract lets you go out and get these premier players at premier positions and build depth so when you have one injury, it doesn't kill you. Whereas when I look at Kansas City, if anything happens to Jones, they're done. I mean, he is that defense, plain and simple. The cornerbacks are both young rookies who have played okay, and I guess you can't call them rookies anymore at this point of the year, right? They have a couple guys there that have played okay. The safeties have played all right. But when you look at Kansas City's defense, it all starts with right in the front. I mean, there's one man right in the middle who's a one-man wrecking crew. Is he single-handedly capable of taking over this game and making everything I'm saying right now pointless? Yes, he certainly is.
Yep.
That's what's scary about that. But when you look at these things and you say, I have 4 game records on one team and 1 game record on the other, I like the numbers there. I really, really do. When all things considered, you could call all things even on the second half out there if you want. That doesn't really matter. I mean, I think all things considered equal, I do believe these were actually the number 1 and 2 teams when it came to sacks this season in the NFL. Don't quote me on that, but I believe I'm right on that one. You gotta just wonder what's going to happen out there, who's going to show up. Can you stop Chris Jones if you're Philadelphia? They have a good interior line, but can they stop Chris Jones? We saw the Chiefs struggle last week with the front four of Cincinnati, which is a pretty good front four, but it's nowhere near the level of Philly in depth. And these teams now, while you're getting to the end of the playoffs, remember the Chiefs were the fresher team, which might have made the big difference in the Cincy game. They hadn't played as many straight weeks. That 1 week bye does a good thing. Remember, Philly's only played 2 games the last 4 weeks, same as Kansas City. So these are 2 teams that are coming in on even rest, even keel, ready to go. And I struggle to find it where I give Kansas City an advantage outside of Mahomes. And a big thing with the Mahomes is, how bad is that high ankle sprain, Gingy?
Yeah, you really should be probably looking at what, 6 to 8 weeks probably on a high ankle sprain like that, and he's had 2. You don't know. I mean, he played with it on the AFC Championship, so you think that he's going to come in ready to go, but it's got to be affecting him somehow.
It certainly was. And if you watch the championship game, I don't think it affected his throw or velocity, but that's because this dude throws off platform 98% of the time anyway, because his arm strength is literally out of this galaxy universe, metasphere, whatever the hell terminology you want to use. But if you watch it, there were a few plays where Mahomes scrambles and gets first downs, and those didn't happen in the Cincinnati game. I mean, obviously, he had the huge scramble at the end of the game that drew the penalty. We can't disagree with that, but there were other plays in there where you watched, and he got caught on plays where he wouldn't have got caught. And I don't know. It's scary there. And honestly, this is a Super Bowl, so we would be very reminiscent last year if we didn't talk about special teams. And who do you think has a special teams advantage in this game?
Go to Gingy first. Let me look up some stats.
Okay, well, I can tell you, Gingy, Tommy Thompson is a guy who's had a pretty darn good season, but Harrison Butker's kind of a guy who's struggled a little bit kicking the ball. Same with all the names over there. So who'd you like?
I was going to say, I don't know much about the whole unit as a whole. I just know on the kicking, I definitely like Philly for consistency there. As a unit as a whole, I don't know. I haven't watched the teams close enough all season to know which of those units really stand out, if either of them.
Jake Elliott's one of those typical guys. He's good inside of 50. That's what his whole mantra has always been. Little stout dude. Both punters on both these teams are surprisingly really, really good. I mean, Kern actually isn't great in terms of total yards, but his hang time has always been really good. So he's the guy who doesn't give up very many long punt returns, right? I know if you look at the just pure stats, you're going to go out there and you're going to say, obviously Townsend in Kansas City gives the huge break here because he averages 50 yards a punt. Kern, I believe, averages just a hair over 40. But hang time, Kern's one of the better in the league. In average return distance, Kern's one of the better at holding those. Whereas Townsend has given up a couple big returns this year. And let's be honest, Philly has a pretty explosive kick return unit. Kansas City's big explosive plays on kick returns, if I'm not mistaken from my memory, came from Mecole Hardman, who's not playing in this game because he's out on IR right now. That's how they got Edwards-Helaire back. So, Laskers, you have enough time to give who you like here on special teams.
I'm definitely going to go with the Eagles. And just an interesting sidetrack, I looked up field goal percentage. Do you know who had the lowest field goal percentage this year?
Chris Boswell?
Yep. So for the season, we averaged 70.6 field goal percent made.
Oh.
The best was the Panthers at 94.3. But it comes down to the field goals for me. I think that's the big number that actually is going to mean something in this game.
That's very possible. I mean, it should be nice weather in Arizona, I believe.
Yeah.
Should have some nice weather out there, so hopefully conditions aren't a big factor in this game. Hopefully, hey, let's talk about one other thing that might be a big factor. Officiating, gonna play a major part in this Super Bowl? Yes or no, Laskers?
It always seems to, so yeah, I'm gonna go with it's gonna play a big part.
The Gingy.
Yeah, I'm right there with them. I think there'll be one or two that everybody talks about. Hey, with the officiating, it is what it is. You know what I mean? That's the human element of all sporting events officiated by real human beings.
It should never be. It is what it is in a system that allows for you to review what it is. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to put it this way, Gingy, and I've always taken this stance. You either let the human element be a part or you don't let the human element be a part. It can't be halfway. I personally don't think the officials play a big part of this game, but I don't know. How about coaching staff? Do you guys have a coaching staff that you think gives the team an advantage here? Because you're talking the 1 seed from the NFC and the 1 seed from the AFC, so it's not like we have neither or anything but the two best teams playing this.
I think Andy Reid has a good chance of making an impact.
Gingy.
That's what I was thinking too. Andy Reid's always a good prep guy. He's got 2 weeks to look at this team, really break it down, get ready. I think he'll have his team prep for the game.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've watched the Eagles. I watched the Steelers play the Eagles. I have to say, I think the Eagles have the better coaching staff going into this game for this game. And the pure reason I'm going to say that is they have a lot of young, innovative minds on that team. Whether you want to talk Sirianni as the coach, whether you want to talk Gannon out there on the defensive coordinator side, I feel the young innovation is what's going to change things because you don't know exactly what to expect from this team. Whereas with Andy Reid, because his coordinators haven't gone any place recently, it's tried and true. You know what you're going to get from Kansas City because these are veteran coordinators. Bieniemy's been there for a long time. Reid's been there for a long time. I'm drawing a blank on their defensive coordinator, but he's a veteran guy who's been a head coach before and's been there for a long time. That's a team you know what you're going to get, where the Eagles, I still think, have this remnants of newness to them. You don't know exactly what all trickery they're going to try to pull out, and I think that makes a big difference. And to me, I am so happy that this is a Super Bowl where the coaching staffs are intact and did not get decimated before the big game. To me, that is such a huge thing, and to me makes this game going to be so much better. I hope it's not a blowout one way or the other. Oh, does that mean we have to get to closing thoughts? Closing thoughts mean Who wants to predict this Super Bowl and go first? Laskers, Gingy.
I'll go first.
Either of you
I
want
don't
to
care.
go first? All right, there we go. Laskers, give me a prediction on the Super Bowl and a player who's going to make the difference.
So I'm going to go with the Eagles. Since I think I picked the 49ers and Bengals originally, I think is what my thing was. But actually, maybe it was Bengals, Eagles. I don't remember. Anyhow, my player that I think is going to make the biggest impact is, you mentioned him earlier, but Devontae Smith. I think he's going to make a big impact and going to get the MVP.
It's a good take. Gingy, who'd you like?
I say it's going to be Kansas City in a nail-biter, 37-34. Patrick Mahomes going to be the hero.
That's fair. That's fair. I like the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the Philadelphia Eagles 30-17. And a guy I intentionally didn't mention until right now, Miles Sanders, I think, is the difference maker. He's a running back with that explosive ability. I think the best way to stop Jones from getting in there big on the pass rush for Kansas City is to run straight at him. And I think it's going to be a really close MVP talk between the game that Miles Sanders has and the havoc that old former Steelers Javon Hargrave causes on the other side. I think that's where you're going to see it, but I just can't see anything but an Eagles win in this one. That team from top to bottom, you take out the Hurts injury, that team was unstoppable. And at first we thought in one of the worst divisions in football, it's the NFC least. But that NFC least actually ended up turning out to be a pretty darn good division this year. So I got to give it to them. We have one more thing I want to talk about before we get to shout-outs. I forgot to mention the Steelers story I wanted to mention. So let's end this on a Steelers sandwich. Losing Brian Flores to become defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings. How big of a loss is this for the Steelers defense, Gingy? Laskers. Whoever wants to go.
I'll let you take it first, Gingy.
I think it's a significant loss. I think he was a good coach, brought good leadership. Going to need to fill that hole somehow.
I definitely think it's a big loss as well. Definitely going to be a change in the defense next year, and hopefully that doesn't mean that we're going to get rid of people like Cam Sutton that we should keep.
We can get into more off-season breakdown maybe next week. I don't know what your guys' plans are, but I'm here every week. I also think I'm not too sure. I'm so torn on this because I feel the Steelers defense after we hired Flores, which was this year, was a downgrade from last year. But we didn't have T.J. Watt. But to me, Flores is the middle linebackers coach. That's what his job was, linebackers coach, assistant, defensive coordinator, whatever the heck title they put on it. That's not actually the title. But our middle linebackers all played worse than they did the year before. I guess you could argue Spillane. And it didn't seem to improve. So I don't know. I'm torn on this. I want to say it's a big loss because I think Flores is a good coach. But at the same time, I don't think he coached well in Pittsburgh, if that makes sense. Gingy Laskers, you see what I'm trying to say, though?
Yeah, I see what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So that means it's time for shout-outs. Let me just decide here. Gingy, how about you?
My shout out goes to this year's Hall of Fame class, seeing some guys in there who, I watched play growing up. I believe one of the ones that was notable for me was Joe Thomas, I believe. Heck of a lineman donkey.
Sorry, you play for the stage, you don't exist.
Yeah, I know, but come on, man, that's a heck of an achievement, heck of an honor. Shout out to 2023 Hall of Fame class.
Which, for anyone curious, that included Rondé Barber, let's go Bucks, Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas, Zach Thomas, DeMarcus Ware, Don Coryell, Air Coryell type of thing, the innovator, or one of the innovators of the huge passing game offense, Chuck Howey, Joe Klecko, and Ken Riley. Laskers, your shout out.
My shout out is seeing DeMar Hamlin back out there. He's looking like he's starting to recover, so that's a good thing. Props to him for being there, and also a shout out to the athletic trainer staff that saved his life.
How about him getting himself a 5th place MVP vote for the season honors out there? First off, shout out to all the people in the NFL awards this week, but a special shout out because he becomes the 10th Pitt Panther in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's the boy, Darrelle Revis. That is Revis Island. That gives Pitt Panthers 10 Hall of Famers. And for anyone out there counting, that puts them with the 4th most Hall of Famers in NFL history. So big shout out to Revis Island. And I'm looking forward to seeing some more names get up there. Looking at you, Aaron Donald. Looking at you, Larry Fitzgerald. And potentially Shady McCoy. But it's time to let you know. I am the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger is the YouTube channel where you get all this fun content. And you can leave us a like, follow, comment. Tell us what you want to see in the off season. Do you want us to branch out and cover something more than football that might throw poor Gingy under the bus? Do you want us to cover the XFL and the USFL? Is that correct on the name of the other one that's going on in spring? Spring football! You know that I'm going to break down some players I'm interested in looking in. Specifically, there's a running back that I liked on the Steelers last offseason that I actually want to see him play against some higher up content, and that's Mateo Durant. But that's all I have. Let us know what you think. Laskers, what's going on?
The Laskers everywhere, and maybe we could force Gingy to watch baseball.
The silence says enough.
Yeah, it does.
Ooh, scary baseball. Maybe, boys, maybe. But for now, it's Mutant Gingy. We hanging out. We talking football. We playing video games. And for now, the last game of the season, the big one, the Super Bowl. Get them warmed up. Get them fired up. And say farewell to a fantastic season. Hopefully with a fantastic game to kick them off. Here we go.